Hello everyone, I am Dr. Rohit Pide. I am Pediatrics Medicine Junior Resident Doctor at SRCC Children's Hospital. Today with me I have Dr. Indu Khosla, who is a leading pediatric pulmonologist and a senior consultant with at least 30 years of experience in pediatrics and pulmonology. Hello Dr. Indu Khosla.
Thank you very much for being with me, Rohit.
Today we have gathered here to discuss regarding a mucociliary clinic which would be started at the Narayana Health SRCC Children's Hospital. This clinic would be started soon and will be headed by Dr. Indu Khosla. So Dr. Indu Khosla, ma'am, what are exactly these mucociliary diseases? Would you like to enlighten our audience?
So the name suggests mucus and cilia. Okay. To understand what these disorders are, we need to first understand why are these required in the body. So if I were to take the example of the lungs, our lungs are lined by simple fine hair which are called cilia, and we all know that when we cough a little, so say if I do I will get some mucus in my mouth, right? So our lungs keep on producing mucus. Now this mucus, with the help of the cilia, is like a cilia, if I were to compare, is like a charu, a broom. So it kind of brooms the mucus up from my lungs, comes into my mouth, I swallow it, goes into my stomach and gets digested and thrown off, right? So anything which affects this movement of passage of mucus can cause a mucociliary disorder. We have mucus also produced in other glands of the body, like the pancreas, which is required for digestion of food, like our intestines, where again mucus is required for movement of digested food down. So wherever this mucus is produced in the body, if you have a mucociliary disorder, you will have affection of those organs. Now, mucociliary disorders are disorders where either the cilia do not function, so they do not broom it up properly, or the mucus is of an abnormal consistency, right? It's very, very thick, so it cannot be broomed up. So these are mucociliary disorders.
So madam, I would like to know, are these common in India, and would you like to tell us which are the children who get these diseases first of all?
So with the fact that our population is so huge, we are the second largest populous country in the world. Soon I think in this regard
I think we'll be first
very soon, right? Right. So just because of that, one, two, because we have consanguineous marriages where people marry in relations, right? So these are actually so-called genetic disorders which are recessive. When I say recessive, they do not manifest just like that. But if two recessive genetic disorder carrying parents marry each other, and that typically happens when you marry in relations, these disorders will come up. So just by our number and the fact that we are consanguineous marriages, we definitely have these disorders. Though it is more found in the Western population, the Caucasian population, but it is not uncommon in our country. And I can tell you, right now, I have 3 children admitted with me with cystic fibrosis. Okay, at this point of time when I am talking to you. So these disorders are not common, but they are not very rare either. The reason why we don't have numbers is because we are missing them. And the reason why we want to have a clinic like this here is because we want to create awareness that people come to know that these disorders are not so uncommon.
So having spoken about this clinic, what should the mothers identify in their children? Whom should be brought here? What are the symptoms for these children?
So these are children who start with, I will give you the example of a child who came to me just yesterday. Now this is a 3 or 8 month old child, very beautiful looking boy. Okay, I was handsome looking boy, sorry for calling him beautiful, but he looked very cute, so I thought beautiful. So he is the child who got first admitted at the age of 2 months with cough. Then he got admitted at the age of 4 months. It took me half an hour to unravel his full history because there were 10 files and 15 admissions, 30 x-rays, 2 CT scans, right? And he had gone to at least 5 doctors. So this child, what did he present with? He came with cough, and it was a wet cough. So this is, normally babies and infants don't cough. If they cough, and if it's a wet cough, it should set you an alarm that this is something not normal. They cannot produce so much mucus and they cannot really cough so much. So children who have wet cough starting early in life, children who do not gain weight, means recurrently they are falling sick and who do not gain weight, children who have oily stools, where this mom brought me the potty after some time and showed me a diaper of the child's potty. Child had eaten so much and the potty was so much bulky, oily, difficult to clean. So bulky, oily stools, right? Even at birth, these children may not pass stool immediately and they may have delayed passing of the first stool. So failing to thrive, wet cough, oily, sticky stools, and in other ciliary disorders, you may have recurrent ear infections. You may have children who may have a family and who have a constant running nose. The other ciliary disorders, so there are three different disorders. So one will be this category which I first mentioned, and the other one, they will start having a running nose right from the first go, and then they will start developing wet cough, and then they will develop fever, etc. So when you have these kind of symptoms, you need to think of a mucociliary disorder.
So ma'am, you've nicely summed up, like there's some leak from somewhere, like at the ears, stools, or cough, running nose, that is when the mother should catch up this. And as you said that the child had required a repeated admission, so this is not something that is picked up in the first time. So how do you diagnose these diseases?
So the presentation of these conditions can be very varied because there are multiple genetic mutations, genetic defects which are involved in causing this disease. So you may have at one end very severe disease and at the other end you may have even mild disease. So recently I had done a workshop for cystic fibrosis. So I had a 33-year-old woman who called me up and said, I want to enroll for this workshop. I asked her, what is your child's name? She says, no, I am the patient. I got diagnosed 6 months back. Okay, so even in these are conditions which can present in adulthood. So first important thing for diagnosis is suspicion, right? So you have to suspect these disorders, and because they can be mild to very severe. The second thing is we have to do certain basic tests which can be done at any lab. Say for cystic fibrosis, so if I have to mention the mucociliary disorder, the commonest of the two disorders that we need to talk about is cystic fibrosis, and we talk about primary ciliary dyskinesia. Cystic fibrosis is where the mucus is thick, whereas ciliary dyskinesia is where the cilia don't function, right? So finally what happens is the mucus collects and there is infection in the lungs and there is pneumonia, right? In cystic fibrosis, because the mucus is thick, even in the pancreas the mucus is thick, the pancreas doesn't produce enzymes, the child does not digest food properly, whatever he eats is thrown out in his stools. So therefore in children with cystic fibrosis you have pneumonia, diarrhea, failure to thrive. In children with ciliary dyskinesia, because the hair don't function, you have runny nose, you have ear infection, mucus collects here because it is not thrown out, and they also get pneumonias. Correct? And finally they have lung damage. Towards the end they both will have lung damage. Now, so for cystic fibrosis, the specific test is something called as the sweat chloride test. Now this test is not available in most places, even in a city like Mumbai. So hardly one more center has these tests. But we have set it up here at the SRCC Children's Hospital, and that is the gold standard test. Beyond that, you will do genetic tests. Now genetic labs are available all over the city now, so you can do genetic tests to confirm. If you do not have these two tests, you can do certain other basic blood tests. You can do a stool for fat to identify cystic or suspect, but to confirm you need to do the sweat chloride and the genetic test. For ciliary dyskinesia, the tests are even a little more difficult. So clinical suspicion is very important, and you can take a brush biopsy, meaning you can take some amount of hair which are inside the nose and see it under the microscope to see if they are working or not. So that can be done for ciliary dyskinesia. There are a few more tests which are not very freely available. Within due course of time they will be available. So clinical suspicion and these baseline tests will help you diagnose it.
So having said this, clinical suspicion and the sweat chloride test, which is available at the NHSRCC Children's Hospital, these would be critical in identifying these children. Having identified the cystic fibrosis and ciliary dyskinesia, how do we go on to manage this child? How do you treat the child?
So I need to tell you that we need a multidisciplinary approach. Now these are kids which cannot be handled in one standalone clinic where one person is sitting and handling. So for a child with cystic fibrosis, you need a pediatric pulmonologist, you need radiologists who may need to do X-rays and CTs on and off. You need a microbiologist to look for the sputum test to see if there's infection or not. You need a dietitian because these children are not growing and they need special diets. Most important, you need a physiotherapist who would help these children remove the mucus so that they don't get infection. And you also need a counselor, because these are children who are going to be sick for a very long period of time. The the parents need support, the child needs support. So we also need a counselor because these are chronic illnesses. Many children with good care are surviving till adolescent and adulthood now. So they need a lot of support. The families need a lot of support. So all of them put together, you need a good multidisciplinary clinic, and where all of these people work together for a child with these disorders. So, yeah.
So, like a multidisciplinary team is required to treat these disorders. And at SRCC Children's Hospital, being the only super specialty children's hospital available in Mumbai, then everything is available under one roof here. So, having spoken about this disease, how is it treated, who will get these, can they be prevented in some or the other way?
A very, very important thing that you have raised, Rohit, and I thank you for bringing up this question. So, once there are newborn screening tests, which I would think that most children should do today, and in the Western world, because cystic fibrosis is more a disease of the West, that is, it's thought to be more of a disease of the West. Now, when they do a newborn screening, they would identify a baby at birth. So that is called secondary prevention, because you pick them up early, you prevent lung damage, and you treat them. But the primary prevention will happen if you have a family where there is a child with cystic fibrosis. Like this kid I was telling you yesterday, now this child was not diagnosed. Just 20 days back, this parent lost a 2-month-old with similar complaints. So if this child would have been diagnosed, one could have done antenatal genetic tests to prevent the birth of such a child and of course the death of a child like this. So definitely one can prevent either primarily or secondarily if a child is born with cystic fibrosis. Early intervention can improve their quality of life, can improve their lung function and increase their longevity. So in the Western world, today children who are diagnosed at birth are surviving till the age of 40, 45, 50 every year, and now there are newer drugs which are also coming in. So their survival is improving. So that is a secondary prevention.
So, like Dr. Indu Khosla, we would like to know what is your experience in this field, your experience in treating these children.
Cystic fibrosis is very close to my heart. I have a large number of patients who are regularly following up with me for cystic fibrosis. Now, my oldest child with cystic fibrosis is at this point of time, that I'm not talking about that woman, she came to the camp, but beyond that whom I have treated is about 23 years old now. Okay. Now, the youngest child that I diagnosed was the one at the age of 1 month, and I have 3 such children whom we are diagnosed at the age of 1 month. Now I need to talk to you about these children whom I diagnosed at the age of 1 month. They are doing very, very well. Why? Because the parents got sensitized to it early. They started intervening early. And so this other kid whom we diagnosed at the age of 1.5, 2 months, she came to me with less than birth weight. So she was born a 3.5 kg baby. She came at the age of 2.5 months with a weight of 2.2 kg. So instead of gaining weight, she had lost weight. And it was that time when we admitted her for 10 days, and that kid today is 1 year and 2 months old, and she's weighing 9.5 kg, which like any other normal child. So this is a parent who got sensitized, who's giving proper treatment. Child is doing wonderfully well, and the child has the severest mutation. It's not that the child has a mild mutation. So still the child is doing very well. So my experience says that we need to pick up early. We need to nutritionally rehabilitate them. So if these children do not have good nutrition, because they have a lot of myths, because when they think of cystic fibrosis, mucus, they don't give any butter, any fat in the diet, and they feel that will increase their problems. It's just the reverse. So you have to nutritionally rehabilitate them. You have to emphasize the need of physiotherapy. If you can just do these 2 things, you will get very, very good outcomes. So early diagnosis, good nutritional rehabilitation, good physiotherapy, and vitamin supplementation. And antibiotics, of course, will be required as and when these children have a problem, but they do very, very well if you can diagnose them early. So that is what is my heart says. I must create awareness about this disease, so it's picked up early. So we have children whom we can treat, and we can prevent a subsequent birth in that same family.
So, madam, are there any dedicated clinics for cystic fibrosis and primary ciliary dyskinesia that?
So unfortunately, in Mumbai city we have none, and this is the first one that we are starting at the SRCC Children's Hospital, where we would look at dedicated OPDs for these kind of children, and we will work towards their betterment for sure.
Having discussed about the mucociliary clinic. Now we would like to definitely start. We're looking forward to starting this clinic, and with Dr. Indu Khosla with such a vast experience in this field would definitely show us the right way in the treatment of these children. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you,
Indu.
Rohit. It was wonderful interacting.
Thank you.